Welcome to the Inside Out podcast. I'm your host, Jojo, and this is where we will navigate the mess together. That is mental, emotional, and spiritual. Let's get messy. Hi, everyone. So I originally recorded this episode, but after second thought, I realized I was a little fired up when I ended up recording it. And I sat with this question a bit longer, and I wanted to pose it to you because it's a pretty interesting question. And it's all about time and respecting people's time. And I had a situation recently where I had made time for someone and had it blocked out in my day, had some stuff that I needed to do to prepare for it. And this person just completely didn't show up and didn't communicate, didn't say anything. And I felt very disregarded. I felt very disrespected. And I was pretty upset. So when I first recorded this episode about time and people's time and boundaries and how to respect people, I was a little bit fired up. So I wanted to scrap that episode. You know, not every episode hits the air, and create more of a question for you guys and pose this question because I think it gets a little bit deeper. So my question to you is, why do we show up late or not show up at all? And why is this rude? Not only why is this rude, but why do we do it at all? When someone is late or just doesn't show up at all, our brain starts to fill in the story. They don't respect me, I don't matter to them, etc. And sometimes, well, that could be true. There's research out there and a study that I found that there's really no significance between chronic lateness and a single personality trait, meaning that lateness is not by itself a proof of like a character flaw. What if lateness is less of a message about us and more of a symptom about something in them? Now we can flip that. Is it more of a symptom in something than us? If we are late or we are not, respecting people's time or something's happening, what is really going on the inside? So we're going to put this on ourselves instead of on the outside, and we're not going to blame anyone here. We're just going to think about this. In the 1970s, Kahneman and Tversky discovered this theory called planning fallacy, where we chronically underestimate how long things take. Things that we might even have done 100 times, like loading the dishwasher or laundry or cleaning. And we lie to ourselves and tell ourselves, in the future, I'm going to be faster, I'm going to be more efficient, or I'll hit every green light, or I'll find my keys immediately. But we don't. And sometimes ADHD gets in the way and we don't really understand how much time has passed. We're scrolling on our phone or we're doing something and then it's like, oh shoot, 40 minutes have gone by. And getting derailed is a huge part of that. One more scroll, one more, oh, I need to do this, one more. And without registering it, you're like, I'm going to leave in 5 minutes, 40 minutes ago. Now, there are several root emotional causes to maybe why this is happening. And I'm going to walk through every single one of them, but there's anxiety and avoidance. There's self-worth issues and feeling inferior. Sometimes there's control that's going on, perfectionism, self-sabotage, old wirings, and people-pleasing and overcommitting. So maybe there's something in you when you are listening to this episode that you're like, oh, wow, that's why I'm always later. You're going to identify something and realize something in yourself that you're like, I want to unpack this deeper. So let's talk about anxiety and avoidance. Sometimes we're late because part of us doesn't want to arrive. The event itself makes us anxious, so we subconsciously or unconsciously delay. Maybe self-worth or feeling inferior. So some people delay showing up to avoid social situations that heighten feelings of not being enough. And that lateness translates to hiding. Some people are late because of control. So for people who feel powerless in their lives, being late can be an unconscious way of taking control back. In a mindset shift to being like, everyone waits for me. And it reflects a deeper insecurity, not really an arrogance, because they don't believe that they're enough. Then there's perfectionism, which I'm sure a lot of us can relate to. I'm pointing at myself for those who can't see me. I can't leave until this is done right. It's like the all or nothing thinking, and that's when the delays start. You can't leave until you're finished. Self-sabotage, showing up late to the interview, the date, the opportunity is a part of us being afraid of what happens if we actually show up fully. And I've talked about this before in previous episodes. There's so much more to lose. The ladder, every single time you climb a rung, there's further to fall. And if I show up to that date, or if I show up to that interview, or if I show up to that person or that situation or that thing, there's so much more that I'm risking now. So hence self-sabotaging. Sometimes there's an old wiring. Maybe that's from childhood. Maybe it's where things were unpredictable or chaotic. So it taught you to associate time with anxiety. Then there's obviously people pleasing or overcommitting, and saying yes to everything creates that domino effect because you're running late from one thing to the next thing and you're disappointing everyone little by little. So ask yourself, out of any of those points that I just brought up, is my lateness about time? Or maybe is it about what I feel when I try to be on time? What is that undercurrent that's running your consistent dialogue? Now, there's two sides of the street here, right? If someone in your life is constantly or chronically late, instead of approaching it with judgment and drawing a conclusion for yourself, maybe try approaching it with curiosity. Maybe just once. Notice that this keeps happening. And maybe ask them, hey, like, what's going on? Do you want to, I notice that this keeps happening. Like, do you want to, talk about anything? Instead of, looking at them being like, well, that's just so disrespectful. The problem with continued lateness or repeated lateness is it erodes trust over time in relationships. And as the person who's on the receiving end of someone being tardy, you're allowed to name that. However, assigning a motive and naming the impact, those are two different things, right? If you're telling someone you're disrespectful, you're this, you're that, or you're approaching it with curiosity, you're going to have very, very different outcomes. Now, maybe it's you that's always late. And maybe, you're being shamed by people because you're always, showing up late and people are like, you're always late. And, shame doesn't fix this. So if you're the one that's always late, the research shows that if you are more self-compassionate with this, rather than like beating yourself up, for instance, you are going to actually wire yourself to make that shift instead of beating yourself up with it, because that's just going to fuel the same pattern. And get honest with yourself. Maybe you need a buffer time. I have some friends that tell some of their friends that they know are always late that the event is 30 minutes before it actually is. So they actually show up on time because they know they're always going to be 30 minutes late. How can you assist the people in your life? How can you not shame them? How can you get curious? How can you start understanding from a practical level rather than just blaming on an emotional level and saying all this stuff, or just taking it on yourself and being like, wow, they really, really don't respect me and they don't care about me. They don't X, Y, and Z. Now, the reason that this sparked this whole conversation, as I mentioned in the beginning, was because I had someone more or less flake on me, no-show me, not communicate. And I had to, set a boundary. And sometimes there's, room to give someone a hall pass, But I decided in this specific situation that I wasn't going to. They wanted to reschedule. And I said, you know what? I really hope that everything's okay, that nothing critical happened. I know that things come up. I understand that emergencies happen, but I had no information. They just said, oh, I'm so sorry. Can we reschedule? No explanation. Not that I'm owed an explanation, but that made me realize that this was a boundary that I wanted to draw. So I said to them, you know what? I completely understand that things happen, but I told them what I had put into going out of my way in order to make the time work. And therefore, because I didn't want to risk, being stood up again or being taken advantage of, I said, I'm so sorry, but unfortunately, this is going to be a no for me. When you set a boundary with someone, a boundary is about what you do. It's not what you make them do. You don't need to demand an apology or an explanation. You can simply just close the door instead of repeating that same experience, if that's what you're worried about. And a simple no, delivered in the right way, and wishing them well and not being contradictory, really enforces your own self-trust, your own self-respect, and the ability to say to yourself in your own terms, I'm not going to stand for this. And the people in your life, whether they respect that or not, are going to stay in your life or they're going to leave. If someone is consistently late, that erodes trust, like I said before. And if someone is completely silent with no explanation or doesn't say anything or like, hey, I'm so sorry, I can't make it, something came up, immediately when you're supposed to be giving that person your time, that's different. But just no communication, it kind of makes rescheduling or giving someone more leeway to cross your boundary again or disrespect your time. It just makes it feel unreliable. Now, you can also flip the script on them, right? Now, you can still be curious and have warmth and all of these things and wonder, maybe for them it was anxiety or avoidance or something chaotic happened in their life. And you can still protect your time. You can still have empathy, but you don't need to excuse it if you don't want to. So think about that and ask yourself where in your life you're just saying, oh, I'm just being understanding, but you're actually abandoning your own boundary. Now let's get messy with this, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. Mentally, where do you keep lying to yourself about time? Do you believe that a future you is going to be faster and more capable than the one that exists right now? Emotionally, when you're running late, what are you actually feeling underneath this? Is it anxiety, dread, resistance? And on the other side of that, when someone disrespects your time, do you speak up and hold a boundary, or do you swallow it and call it being nice? And spiritually, what would it mean to treat time, yours and other people's, as sacred? Not as a rule to follow, but as a form of presence and love. This is untidy. This is messy. I don't have an answer this week, but that was the point. I wanted to pose this as a think piece, as a question, as a, why do we do this? Why do we just not talk to people? Why do we not communicate? Why do we self-sabotage? Why do we avoid? Why do we make ourselves late? We are very capable of picking up the phone and being like, it's this time, I need to leave at this time. Why are we not more conscious? I'm really curious on your thoughts about this, so please comment on Instagram, on the podcast, wherever you listen to podcasts. And you guys know where to find me at _insideout.podcast on Instagram. I'm also on TikTok. You can find me on Substack. And think about someone that maybe you need to send this episode to. Is there someone in your life that's always late? Are you always late? Do you need to play this again? Let me know. I'm curious. All right, guys. Have a great week. Bye.